An explosive playmaker with better refinement than you'd expect. It's no secret why Georgia State receiver Ted Hurst is among the favorites when it comes to smaller school prospects. The numbers look pretty good, right? Athletic testing was off the charts. He has the build and the frame to play the position. He clears 2 yards per route run for his career. Really strong contested catch numbers. And his yards per route run against zone coverage the last 2 seasons at Georgia State was really impressive. The one area or 2 areas where there might be some concern is the first downs per target and first downs per route run, which don't really match up with a lot of productive receivers drafted inside the top 40. So when it comes to the film for Ted Hurst, what do we see? I think the first thing that jumps out is how good the weight drop and the route break transitions are on the vertical plane for a player of this size. And it shows up pretty much everywhere. You see him getting in and out of breaks like this really efficiently. And I think he wins on a lot of this because, one, the drive phase is really good off the line of scrimmage, right? We're getting our shoulders over our toes. And you look at the shoulder plane throughout this route, there is no indication of him snapping this route off at all. He has to be respected on the vertical plane because of the long strides and explosiveness. And look at the weight drop we get here. The ability to just sit down, get in and out of that break efficiently. It's really, really impressive. And you just see it everywhere. These comeback routes are just easy wins for him because the body language is good. The drive phase, you see him exploding into that sprinter run. And again, there's not a lot of tells in terms of him, telegraphing where he's going to break. You could maybe say on this one, you see him raise up a little bit. But again, against this kind of cover 3 look, he's got space to work with. And so he gets out of this relatively clean. And again, it's a hinge route, which means you're opening up to the middle of the field and then working to the sideline. He's got a lot of space. He works back to the football really well, and he gets the feet in bounds. And so here, again, it's a lot about shoulders over the toes, pad level looks good, not really telegraphing where we're breaking. And then, again, the ability to just get in and out of that break. Now, I would love to see him explode further downhill a little bit, but on this one, he's got so much space. He elevates for the football. It looks really clean. And then with this whip route, in and out in 3 steps, that's impressive stuff for a bigger guy. And I think a lot of these bigger guys are getting better at this, but again, that level of route break efficiency is really impressive for Ted Hurst. And then on these big dig routes, which he ran a decent amount of in college, again, it's the pressure, a little bit of pressure on that plant foot there gets the corner to open up, and we've got some space to work with, which is exactly what we want. Same thing here, right? Obviously a ton of space to work with, but he's really clean and efficient through that kind of rounding of the break. He maintains a lot of that speed, and that's what we want. Here, I think, is probably the best example of he's just opening up with the stride length, really efficient, and then we get a little bit of yards after the catch elusiveness on top of it. So again, I think a lot of these dig routes and deeper in breakers are going to be successful for him because of that. And here he kind of wins with some tempo off the line, gains ground, and then you see a little bit of vertical pressure here. Forces the DB to open up, and then we get in and out of that break to flatten really nicely from the slot. So that's a really strong one there as well. And then here we're fighting through some contact. You kind of snap this thing off as you lean up against the defender and you get him on the ground. Really clean win for Hurst there. And I think this one is just another good example of winning with some tempo, where he gets off the line and then he kind of slows up and then accelerates, wins through some contact there on the break point. Again, really, really, really good. Now, for some outbreaking stuff, good release here. Sometimes the releases aren't always clean. We'll get into that, but he gets into a clean release. Enough vertical pressure here. Corner's running with him. He's opened the gate. That's what we need. Swipe through some contact, getting out of that break efficiently, and we've won the outbreaker. Just the throw is short because of the pressure. And so here a little bit different. We have some off coverage here. He's got more space to work with. So what does he do? He attacks the leverage pretty well. He stems at the defender. And with enough vertical pressure, he's earned himself a win on this outbreaking route. And then at the line of scrimmage against press, some guys are a little concerned with it. You see him do a really good job swiping through that outside hand of the defender to win. And it happens again here against Coastal Carolina. Again, good hop step into this release and then just swipe. Violent swipe of the hands. We'll go through it one more time where you can see it. And I think that is something that teams are going to look at and say, okay, so he's got some ability to combat this when the release is clean and when the hand timing is done well like that. And here a little bit of tempo win, throws the defender off balance, wins the slant route. You can see him win the slant route, attack the outside shoulder a little bit, quick break. Here he gets a little bit more after the catch. So you see a lot of that. The in and out breaking stuff, it's good. And now we get into some of the explosive plays, the long strides where he just glides effortlessly past defenders and he makes it look pretty easy here, just running a big post, stem at the outside defender there, across the face, and just, again, the strides downfield where it's just tough for the Sun Belt Conference to keep up with him. And that gives him a lot of these easy wins. Now, this one I think is even more impressive because it's, kind of a little bit of a mid-route adjustment. Defender jumps outside, and he does a great job adjusting this route to jump back to the inside there, and then a nice little adjustment, again, creating an explosive play, what we want to see from him for sure if he wants to be that field-stretching Z. Now, catch point stuff, it looks pretty good overall, right? Good elevation here on the fade route. He kind of turns away from contact. Same thing here, great catch point timing. A little bit of clapping, though. That's something that does show up for him, and you see it kind of clap together at the catch point, but he does a great job, again, turning away from potential contact. Really impressive. And then here, the adjustment, right? We've stemmed to the inside of this defender, throws a little bit to the outside. It's harder to kind of flip your head around, so he kind of just opens up, but a really, really nice adjustment there by Hurst to make a play on the ball. And then same thing here, right? We're running a go route. This is going to be thrown to the back shoulder. Easy adjustment, does it late, which is what you need to do to kind of, uncover at the catch point. So really impressed from him there. And here he runs a sail route. It's a little blurry, but I think he notices the defender kind of closing down on this. So he takes that step and attacks the catch point really nicely. And then because he's kind of bigger and stronger than some of these Murray State guys, he's actually able to score as well. Now, what do we need to work on? There are a few things. Some of the release stuff is good. Some of it needs to be improved. Like here, against off coverage, you see the first step kind of behind him. He's not gaining a lot of ground, and he isn't doing a really good job threatening inside. He thinks he is, but the defender matches him because there's not any real level of pressure to the inside to make the defender bite, and that's something that I do think has to get better. Here against a blitzing corner, you see him, watch where my cursor is in the feet after the release. There is a level of retreating here, which we don't want to see. I'll keep my cursor, and you see it. The feet go behind it. That's not what we want to see. We want to be gaining ground. We don't want to be retreating. And it kind of happens here as well where, again, I'll keep my cursor where the front foot is, and both feet end up getting behind it. And again, it doesn't matter on this one because he's able to outrun the defender and track the ball really nicely over the shoulder. But if he wants to play within the rhythm, he cannot be doing stuff like retreating off the line of scrimmage. So now in reception perception, if you see Matt Harmon's stuff, you see a lack of success on the curl routes. And I think some of it is when defenders are kind of catch technique, a little bit at the top of routes, you see him struggle at the last second to uncover with some of that physicality. That happens on an in-breaker here. It does happen on some of the curl route stuff. So that is something that I do think needs to get better. Now here, I think is just, this is how we get to, the top tier in terms of, just route intelligence, spatial awareness, all of that stuff that you want to see from a precision route runner at the next level, where here again, does a good job stemming inside. We're stair stepping, and then we're going to work the deep crosser, right? Now he stair steps, it's effective, right? Defenders retreating. I do think because of where this ball is placed, and again, maybe it's not the best throw, right? There is a lot of space that the quarterback could have thrown this, but because of where this ball is thrown, it makes me believe that I do think if he gets to the defender's toes a little bit more with the stair step, if he closes enough space, one, you'll get him to retreat even more and he'll be less in the picture and he can't come back into it. But also it will get him to the depth to be running cleanly across the field when this ball arrives, rather than kind of a last second vertical track over the shoulder. So just, again, something to monitor. Now, clapping at the catch point, you can definitely see it here. It's unmistakable. It's definitely there, right? The hands are not rising together. You see a lot of space between the hands, and then he closes it at the catch point. I think a really good example of just seeing that, where he does catch that one, but it does show up. And here it's a little blurry, but you see the hands kind of clap together and the ball goes between them, which leads to an interception. And so some of the clapping stuff does have to get better with that technique if he wants to, be more of a reliable target as a pass catcher. Now, some of the yards after the catch stuff we really haven't talked about, but there is good downhill urgency in the screen game from him. You see him adjust to this throw, but he quickly gets into attack mode, which is what he needs to do. So there is some of that for sure. And then a little bit of instinctual yards after the catch here, where he sees the defender closing in on him, and he just, as the ball arrives, gets that plant foot down and is able to shrug him off. So there is some instinctual stuff post-catch with him, but there are other times where I think the level of competition leads to him forcing some missed tackles after the catch. So there is some of that. And then it does show up where he wants to be the elusive playmaker. But here, right when you've caught this and you've squared, you either try to split the defenders or you take what you can get by the sideline. This is not what we want at the NFL level. You will get tracked down by defensive linemen coming from behind. So I do think down-to-down consistency with the release work, some of the stuff against catch technique at the top of routes, and just understanding, I think, having a better concept of the route depths and where he needs to be on time. I think that will get better with time. But you see the long stride playmaking ability down the field, right? Elevating for the football. I think a lot more advanced in terms of adaptability and against press coverage. And obviously the weight drop stuff with the through break transitions is so good that it makes you really excited about a player like Ted Hurst. And I think you can be with a year 2 to year 3 explosion onto the scene in terms of his production. And I think that's what you need to look at with Ted Hurst. But he's obviously really exciting, and there's a reason he has elevated himself firmly into day 2, maybe even round 2 conversation of the 2026 NFL Draft. So if you guys enjoyed this one, if you did, throw a like down there, subscribe if you're new. Plenty of draft content on the way very, very soon. Live shows next Thursday and Friday. Hope you guys will be there. I'll see you guys in the next video. Farewell.